All right, what up, everyone? Welcome back to the Indie Basketball Podcast. This is where indie rock meets the NBA's finest. And today's episode, we're following up our best of 2025 with a look more towards 2026. And we're doing some breakout artists that we think might be due for 2026. And in addition to that, we're going to talk about some breakouts in the NBA as well. And to join me in this, I have Zack Venero here. You are a guest columnist on Indie Basketball, but you also write elsewhere, including is it the King's Herald, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And yeah, happy to have you on, and just kind of we'll share both of our takes on that. And tell me a little bit about your background, though.
Yeah. So I have been involved in really more pro basketball writing, podcasting, on and off for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
I started a now defunct, one of many defunct podcast video series. It was like early podcasting. I had a YouTube show with a couple buddies. One of my friends worked at NBA TV, so we actually got like some real guests back in the day.
Yeah.
I did a little YouTube show with a friend for a couple years where we basically just covered the league as a whole and fantasy hoops. We used to cover like NBA Twitter early on, a lot of the goofy stuff that was happening with like Nick Young and JaVale McGee. And after that, I kind of cooled it for a while, and just in terms of like, podcasting, writing, until I was a part of a small podcast a couple years ago called Ball Sometimes Lie. I did that with some friends. Most notably, kind of the main figure of that show is Adam Pally, actor, comedian. And that was great. Got to work on that for a couple years. And then,
Love that dude.
Yeah, super funny guy. He's got a great special out right now on HBO.
Mm-hmm.
And we still manage a fantasy team together.
Nice.
Trust the Prosciutto is the name of our fantasy team. But yeah, and then kind of in parallel to that, I am friends with, in my opinion, the best Sacramento Kings coverage this side of the Mississippi, the King's Herald. Friendly with some guys there, and just kind of started contributing a couple random one-off pieces until I kind of found my voice and started a column, and it's been going strong. It's called Contrarian Corner, just kind of like King's thoughts and takes from an optimistic contrarian standpoint that I now am trying to parlay into indie music, which is the other thing I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, we kind of ported that over to Indie Basketball, and with watching the tape, which is like taking a deep dive and looking back at maybe some overlooked albums in the past. Absolutely,
yeah. I'm really excited about that series, and I've got some interesting records in the hopper, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah, dude. Why are you from California? Is that why you're a Kings fan, or?
It's a great question. No, I'm actually originally from South Florida. I live in Atlanta now. But as a kid growing up in the late 90s and early 2000s and really starting to follow the league, I fell in love with the early 2000s Kings. Mm-hmm. Vlade, Chris Webber, Peja, Mike Bibby, Hito. Like, those teams, the way that they passed the ball, the space and pace, like they were kind of like the 7 seconds or less Phoenix Suns, the Steph Curry Warriors before they were, in my opinion. So I fell in love with that style of play.
Yeah.
And I think being, a contrarian naturally at heart, it was like one of those things where it was like, hey, I live in Atlanta. All my friends love the Hawks. Screw that. I'm a diehard Kings fan.
A voluntary Kings fan is a very rare thing.
Yeah. It's been a rough 20-plus years, I can tell you that.
But hey, right now you guys are basically like Bulls West, so...
Yeah, and I think there's rumors that could continue. Apparently the Bulls want Domantas Sabonis, and we're open for business.
You want Vooch? We could just do that. I mean, just keep it going. Let's just trade until the end of eternity. Yeah. Wild. It's wild, but it is what it is. I think we both have our share of misery with our teams, at the moment a little bit. You had a brief glimmer with the Kings a couple of years ago.
Yeah, the Beam team. And I think a lot of Kings fans still like to hold on to that. The beam is
Yeah.
dead and gone. As much as it,
Yeah.
we still light it up after one of our 7 victories. The remnants of that team are few and far between.
Yeah.
But hey, at least the Bulls. I mean, you guys have got you've got Giddy.
Don't be fooled. It's, I think I just this podcast has often become therapy as a Bulls fan, but
I'm sure.
It's you gotta keep your distance and temper your expectations because it's just really hard to believe.
It's tough. I mean, but at the end of the day, there's so many teams that are in the wilderness. Like the Kings.
Sure.
You've got Buzelis. If nothing else,
I am excited about him. I do like him. I just after the hot start, I foresee a play-in tournament happening.
Yeah, I think that you guys are going to get frisky at the deadline. The Kobe
I hope
White
so.
thing, it feels kind of imminent. I see him as the odd man out. Contract a year.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Giddy both wanting to play on ball. I don't know.
Right.
It don't look good.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? Maybe Reinsdorf is feeling frisky now. He with the White Sox, he just signed Murakami. He's throwing out money. That's a rare thing. So maybe he'll bring that to the Bulls, and he'll want to trade for someone big. Who knows?
Yeah,
We'll
fingers
see what
crossed.
happens. But let's start with some NBA stuff. Let's keep this going a little bit. We'll start with talking about some of our NBA breakouts and some other notable NBA news, and then we'll transition over to talk about our music breakouts. But first, keeping up some more top level notes, I guess. Let's talk about the NBA Cup. The Knicks just won, and they were really celebrating like they won it all. I guess I want to know, what's your take on the NBA Cup as a kind of entity?
I'm a sicko. So I watch I watch pretty much every night. Last night I was watching the Pels and the Mavs. I've got no skin in that game whatsoever. It was just like, you know what? Sadiq Bey's looking a little bit frisky. Let me let me check in on him. But because of that, I think that the NBA Cup is added a really interesting gimmick and is kind of breathed new life into the beginning of the league, where it's just kind of the NFL is still talk of the town. They're owning all the sports media cycles, and I think that this has brought some relevance and a little bit of a spotlight again to the early part of the league where people aren't necessarily paying attention. People always say, "Hey, NBA doesn't start until Christmas." Well, I think this is something different, even if it's just the wacky courts alone, which, by the way, I'm a big fan of the wacky courts. There's a few of them that are there are a few of them that are a little bit rough on the eyes.
Yeah, Timberwolves in particular.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm looking at you, Minnesota. Yeah, but I think that gimmick courts, gimmick, jerseys. There's 6 different jerseys now every season. It looks and it feels different, and it brings a different competitive flair.
The gimmick jerseys, I think I'm all about. I love that every year we can look forward to what's the new kind of alt jersey that they're going to use. The courts go a little I'm down for special courts, courts that make this feel like a special thing. Get the big trophy on the court. I like the putting the cup trophy in the key. That's cool. That's really nice choice. But the lime green paint, I want to keep if I had my way, I would keep the wood tones, keep it simple, add some little graphics that make it feel special. Maybe you do gold, whatever, to feel like it's a tournament or a cup, but keep it more traditional.
Yeah. No, I get that. I think there's a way to dial it back, but still have it kind of stand out and be distinctive for sure.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, they're experimenting. And I heard Adam Silver was a guest on the pre-show before the NBA Cup final, and he was talking a lot about ratings and attendance in the league are both up. I want to say it was 20 or 30% year over year, and he attributes a lot of that to the cup itself because it's piquing fan interest, even if it's the increased competition, which I think you could say there are playoff-esque atmospheres from time to time. Or if it's just people are like, what is this court about? It's creating discourse, online, and it's getting people interested. And I think that's ultimately a net positive for the league.
Yeah, and I think too, just like there is a level of excitement that it took a little bit to get adjusted to. You have to let it sit and marinate for people to get into it. And now I feel like we're a couple of years into doing the Cup, and felt like a big one. This felt like a big deal, and people were like really excited for like the semifinals and the finals, because I'm looking at the Knicks celebrating that like they won the championship, which is awesome, and it's well deserved because they do get their little bonus out of it too.
Oh, totally. And honestly, I mean, I think this Nova-esque Knicks team is a lot of fun.
They are.
This might be the peak. I hope it isn't. I've got a lot of Knicks fans in my life, and
it's got to be the year. It has to be.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm sure a team we'll talk about here in a little bit, but the Pistons, they're the other team that I think, seemingly has a shot this year in the East. The East is pretty wide open, but the Knicks, I mean, Brunson just went off for 47 points the other night. Like, you've got that guy on your team.
Cat's in his groove.
Oh yeah, Cat's in his groove. Bridges is kind of bouncing back a little bit. I mean, in that NBA Cup, OG was guarding Wemby. Wemby's got like a foot on him, but OG's strong, and he's got length, and he's crafty, So like they've got the pieces. It just seems like they're maybe a couple guys short. They still don't really have a bench.
I will say my takeaway from that Cup final is, and this to the dismay of Knicks fans, I would assume. My takeaway is that I now see the Spurs are truly a real contender.
Oh, absolutely.
Like Wemby, the way Wemby's been playing, and he's had some slight ups and downs, inconsistencies, but he's just such a dominant player, and it's not just him. Like the rest of that team is really contributing and helping out, and they're truly not like, maybe they'll be in the play-in. I see them as like a 4 or 5 seed potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as that guy is healthy, and that's the thing, is this year he hasn't even been healthy. They were above 500 without him, but with him they're instantaneously a top 10 defense.
But then you get the clips, you see I forget who it was that managed to get a block on him the other day.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, all right, we'll get the ball right back, and he went and just dunked on him like immediately.
Yeah.
And he I love that he is not afraid of that. He's not afraid of like being competitive in that nature. Such an exciting player, and I think to have the Knicks, the Thunder, the Spurs, the Pistons, like this is the new NBA, and it's crazy.
Oh, totally. And especially Wemby, like not only is he that guy and he wants to be that guy, but he says it with his chest. I can't remember what game it was recently, but he like in a post-game scrum was like, I'm the best player in the league right now, and you could quibble with whether or not he's the best player in the league today. I think he's certainly probably top 3. But he's grown so much in such a small amount of time. Like not only his body, I mean, the guy's gotten stronger,
Yes.
but like, he's not just jacking up threes. Like he's learned kind of that mid-post game. He's got a little bit of a Dirk like fade leaner, like
his footwork has been so impressive to watch.
Absolutely. And he's, I think, a really underrated passer too. Like he's got it all. And it's really scary because what is he, 20, 22, 23 years old?
I know. And in that final, it was a really good game between the Knicks and the Spurs, and I keep thinking about that pass from Cat, who's another great big passer.
Yeah, totally.
And it's just like he's surrounded by Wemby, and he's double teamed, and just I don't know how he got that around the side, but even though he did travel,
well,
it's fine.
I think you and I and everyone else watching that game assumed he was going to step out of bounds or just collapse on the ground. And to his credit, that was a really impressive pass. And if it was Cat from just a couple years ago with the Timberwolves, the amount of times we saw him kind of crumble or shy away in like big games, especially big playoff-esque games. It happened more often than not. So I think it's cool. I think that like Jalen and Josh Hart and those guys are really kind of pumping him up, and it seems like he's got a little bit more juice to him in New York.
Totally. So it is a Christmas episode indirectly. This will be dropping on Christmas Eve, but we're not really diving into that too much. But we have Christmas Day basketball on the horizon, and how do you take in NBA Christmas basketball? Is it a tradition in your household?
Absolutely, yeah. It has been for a long time, and shout out to my wife who's put up with it for over a decade. But we have a good mix of games and Christmas movies and Christmas beers and snacks sprinkled throughout the day in our house.
Totally.
And I kind of have to like really pick my battles because like I'm not gonna make everyone in my house watch 5 consecutive games the entire day.
Yeah.
So I normally get at least 2.
So are you skipping out on Cavs Knicks? Are you T-Wolves Nuggets? I mean, Jokic is always fun to watch.
So Spurs Thunder is a must.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's locked in. I do think traditionally it might be different this year. I love watching the New York games at the Garden. They're always like the early matinee game. I don't have as much interest this year just because it is the Cavs, and the Cavs they're kind of floundering. They're not who they have been these last couple years. So
sure.
I would say it's probably going to be T-Wolves Nuggets. Especially it's the late game. It's 10:30. So like my son will be asleep. My wife will probably be asleep too. So that'll be easy to squeeze in at the end of the night. But who doesn't want to see Jokic and Ant?
Totally.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, Mavs and Warriors is it might be a pass, but Cooper Flag is playing against Steph Curry, and that's like they know how to pick the right matchups for Christmas Day. But I think Rockets Lakers will be good too, and I love you want to see the superstars on the day.
Totally.
And they do a great job of that, and I think they got a stacked lineup. I usually. Yeah, my philosophy with the NBA games on Christmas is much like the 24 hours of a Christmas story. Is I'll pop in for a good half hour, and pop out, and then pop back in on the next game.
Yeah, totally. I'll tell you the one thing that I miss about NBA Christmas Day. I feel like it was a thing in like the late 2010s. The Christmas Day jerseys.
Oh, they had a good stretch too.
They did.
I love They had like the Christmas script in like a cream color.
Yeah.
Those were so good.
Yeah. Anyone from the league that's listening, please bring those back.
Bring them back. Yeah. I'll design them. It's fine.
Yeah. I wondered, you probably got a Chicago, like a D Rose era Christmas jersey, right?
It was definitely the D Rose era. I think it was 2011, those jerseys.
Yeah.
Which is perfect time.
Nice.
All right, so the crux of this episode is it's all about breakouts, both musically and NBA. And before we can talk about 2026 breakouts, let's talk a little bit about the breakouts currently happening in the NBA season. And I think there's a good range of them. Both ranging from rookies to people who kind of taking that next leap. Who's a player that has kind of made that leap for you?
Yeah. Well, let's start with Dylan Brooks. I've always been, this is a divisive take, but like I've always been a Dylan Brooks guy. Like I remember back in Memphis, he overstayed his welcome. Infamously, Memphis front office told him they would not be re-signing him under any circumstances. And and the guy bet on himself and got a nice big deal with the Rockets. I think it was 4 years, $80 million a couple off seasons ago. And he brought that grit and grind mentality immediately to Houston and helped transform that defense along with Fred VanVleet a couple of seasons ago. And fast forward to now, he's in the KD trade, kind of just as like salary flotsam. And the dude is balling out having a career year. Not only do I think he's having a massive impact on the culture there in Phoenix. I mean, anyone watches Phoenix Suns games, and I know there's probably not a lot of Suns fans, but They're above 500. They are so feisty, picking up full court. One of the league leaders in deflections, and he is like the tip of the sphere, on that end of the basketball court. And on top of that, he's averaging a career high with points at 22 a game in about 30 minutes. So I love to see it. I love to see him prove all the haters wrong, and he's near the top of that list for me.
Sure, and it's hard to admit, with someone who it's hard to like him, but he is balling out more than he has, especially in past few years. But he never really became, he never really started as that kind of scoring kind of guy. He was a spot shooter and he was a defender.
Yeah.
But here he is, kind of, in a team that kind of needs it.
Oh, totally. Yeah, and it's not. Yeah, exactly. It's not like it's. He's kind of forcing his way in. There's a void. They don't. Gone is KD. Gone is Brad Beal. Although he was never really there to begin with.
Fair. Yeah. So one of my, you can't talk about breakouts without talking about. I feel like there's two players that come to mind. The first being Denny Avdija, who, as it's been a slow rise for him, but really end of last season we started to see it. And this season, he's just keeping it going. He's 25, 7, and 9 on the year, which is like a pretty unreal stat line to go by. And I know Portland is a lackluster in terms of depth, but he is balling out, and he's doing it well, and he's helping that team. He's got support from Shaden Sharp, and Scoot Henderson hasn't really been as dominant as people may have expected him, but Denny has been that guy.
He's so impressive. I've been a big fan of his. Honestly, going into the draft, I remember that year is when the Kings took Tyrese Halliburton, which proved to be the right pick. And Denny was taken right before him, but I was a huge Denny guy just because of the size and the length and the defensive tenacity. And I never in a million years imagined he'd be this level of a shooter. He'd be this level of a playmaker. And the guy is like one of the league leaders in drives and free throws. He is relentless taking it to the cup, man. Like, to see his growth has been so cool. And especially this season, like, he's really had to step up. All of their point guards are hurt,
Yeah.
Like, Dame Lillard's out for the year. Drew Holiday has barely played. Scoot Henderson hasn't played.
Yeah.
So he is legitimately their de facto point. And he's 6'9"?
Yeah, which is the model that is the LeBron popularized model, which is fine. I'm a little sour too, just because Bulls were definitely favored to take him at number 4.
Oh, that was the Patrick Williams pick,
they
right?
surprised everyone by taking Patrick Williams, who only played 11 minutes per game in college in 1 year.
He's still the next Kawhi, right? That's what we're saying.
No, we've moved on to Noah Senge now. Noah Senge is the next Kawhi in the G League currently.
Yeah.
So, it's a hard pill to swallow, but, he's happy to see him balling out.
Yeah, for sure. Great show.
And then the other guy I mentioned is Austin Reeves, who you can't, not mention him without talking about how much he's just scoring like crazy on that Lakers team with a LeBron who's obviously not playing very much, and he is aging and not scoring over 10 points per game for the first time.
Austin Reeves has got to be one of the better undrafted success stories, maybe ever.
I think he's likely to be an all-star this year.
Oh yeah. I mean,
which is
think
insane to think.
It also, I don't know. I haven't sat down and put together like my own fake All NBA teams.
Yeah.
But it's reasonable to think he could be one of the top 15 guys in the league this year.
Sure, definitely. I mean, he's carried that team on several occasions this season, and that's a team that already has Luka Doncic on it. So,
yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, their backcourt combines for over 60 points a night.
Yeah,
that is such a rarity, and you look at Austin. I mean, Austin and Luka and LeBron are all pretty ball dominant players, but Austin can kind of give and go a little bit. He can spot up in the corner.
Sure.
I mean, and he's become such just a ridiculous foul drawing magnet. I mean, that guy knows he knows how to work the refs. He knows how to work the guys in the court, and it is really, really impressive.
Right.
To see. I mean, he's blossomed, and that's another great pick.
You got anyone else on their list to look out for?
Yeah. I've got a couple other deep cuts, some quick hits. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Big Stu in Detroit. I love watching this Pistons team. It's not exactly always pretty.
Yeah.
And he is one of these guys that is incredibly versatile. Like he's become a little bit of a 3-point shooter. He's always been down to mix it up, and play physical.
Sure.
But he's over 2 blocks a game this year and under 23 minutes. He's averaging double-digit points, and he is such a big piece of that fabric and that defense of really tough, physical, gritty defense. And I think he's taken a little mini leap, And I think he's a little bit underrated because he's a guy coming off the bench.
Sure. And another guy too is Keontae George, who is another product of you're balling out, but you are on pretty iffy team, so that's why that's happening. So
yeah, he's such an interesting guy because I think this is his 3rd year, and the rub on him was that like he was kind of a gunner. He's always looking for his own and wildly inefficient. And this year he's like 24-7, career high percentages, and the 7 assists I think is really important. He is really looking to kind of set guys up. You watch the Jazz, and he's working his way to the paint and kicking it out and spraying it out to guys in the corners. And I think it'll be interesting to see what does this look like on a real team. Because right now it's kind of him and Lauri Markkanen and not a whole lot else. And it's not resulting in a lot.
Lauri's been pretty insane too.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
As far as rookies, it's been a really good class at a high level. Are there any guys you want to shout out?
Oh yeah. I mean, the most obvious one is Con Knippel. He's
Scoring
probably
machine.
he's probably the front runner for Rookie of the Year. And I mean, I don't think I knew he was capable of like scoring at this level.
Yeah, definitely.
The shot
he can
there.
shoot.
Yeah. But like he's also kind of like dynamic in the sense that he's crafty getting to the cup. He's got good size and he knows how to use it. He's not particularly athletic or fast, but it is all about like the craft, bouncing off of guys and getting the angles with the shot. And I think he's a really underrated passer too. I didn't really watch a lot of him in college, but that's really impressed me is his passing.
Yeah, definitely. Other guys, I mean, VJ Edgecombe's been solid.
Yeah.
He's up and down, but he's scored some high points. He had that 35-point game in his first game, which is crazy. Yeah. You have Derek Queen, who's surprised people. He's at a triple-double, and that's insane alone. He's really impressive. Obviously, Cooper Flagg is still very good and still getting better every game. He's the youngest person to have 40 points in a game, which is mind-blowing. It's been a really good offensive class at the very least.
Yes. I'd be remiss if I didn't shout my guy Max Renaud in Sacramento. He's one of the one bright spots this year. A 2nd-round pick out of Stanford, but he's been kind of thrusted into the starting lineup.
Sure.
All of the King centers are hurt right now. Sabonis has barely played, and he's been given the opportunity, and he's basically putting up a double-double every night. He's got such a nice touch around the rim. I think he has the potential to be an okay rim protector, and I think he's going to be a stretch 5 long term. He's got a nice shot.
Nice. Love to hear that.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So those are our NBA kind of breakouts. Why don't we switch over to music, and let's talk about the music breakouts that we kind of anticipate maybe in the new year. Whether that's someone who put something out this year that we feel needs more attention, that maybe they'll latch on the next year, or maybe there's some anticipated stuff, or just young artists who are ready to put out their first album. So we have a good mix here. What we'll do is we'll go back and forth. We'll play a little clip from the song, and we'll kind of like share our thoughts on these and kind of what to expect. I like this idea of like we're playing songs for the other person here, so we'll kind of evaluate each other's songs. So let's get into it. And let's start off with your first song. and it is from a band called TV Freaks. Let's play that. Tell me a little bit about them.
Yeah, so TV Freaks are a Canadian-based punk band. I want to say this is their 4th or 5th record. Yeah, so they've been around for a little bit, but they've also been gone for a while. This is their first record in 5 years, and it just came out. It's not even, they haven't even put out the vinyl yet. It's digital only. They're going to be announcing tour dates next year, and I think that they have, they've gotten a little bit of love from some larger publications over the years, but they're definitely not on a lot of folks' radars. I think they've had trouble touring in the States, like, getting
as
the traction.
Everyone does.
Yeah, exactly. Getting the traction that they probably really deserve. But this is, this album in particular is kind of a little bit of a deviation from their, more traditional punk roots, I'd say. It's a little bit more psychedelic. And, at times it's more traditional, kind of like garage rock.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be more accessible to a wider audience as a result. But it still has plenty of teeth, and grit, like kind of what their sound is traditionally known for. So, really, really loving this record, Blue Genie, and excited for folks to dive in. But I'm eager to hear what you thought. What were your impressions?
For sure. Yeah. I dug this track. I had not heard them before. Definitely does feel like that, like you said, that kind of garagey punk, Brit punk a little bit. Are they from the UK?
Canada.
Well,
yeah.
they do the sound well.
Yeah.
No, it's really nice. It's a good kind of like consistent sound, and I feel like there's definitely some people kind of doing that a little bit right now, and a little less of the the sort of industrial post punk right now is really huge.
Totally.
But this is a little more on the palatable, straighter garage punk sound, which it's really good.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, so my first anticipated song for next year is an album I've been looking forward to for a couple of years now, and it is by Sweet Pill. So here's the song No Control. So I'm super stoked for this album because their 2022 album was already a pretty solid breakout because they kind of came out of nowhere. And, it's just so high energy. And, the grouping with a lot of, the emo and emo adjacent bands it's hard for them to stand out. But they do, because I feel like they have such unique kind of vocal patterns that you don't often find in that genre, like similar to a band like Hop Along vocals like really go out there, and they have these rises and falls. It's really interesting, and their guitar is just so good. There's these little mathy bits throughout. This song is, I think, the first single that we're hearing from their new album, which comes out I believe in February or March, and it's a little more on the subdued side compared to their previous album, but I'm excited to hear much more from that album.
Yeah, I had no familiarity with them going into this, and I think of the tracks that you curated, this one stood out to me as the most aggressive, most in your face. I kind of jotted down some notes as I was listening to it, and the kind of vocal interchange is what immediately stood out to me. That little excerpt that you just played. Which is not unheard of, but I do think, as you mentioned, like kind of standing out in like emo and post-hardcore today.
Sure.
Like it definitely immediately caught my attention, as well as like the interplay between the bass and drums, like super high up in the mix, immediately stood out to me and got my attention. So I really dug that track.
And they never did much of that on the last album, so I do wonder if maybe that'll be more of a theme on this new album. Is maybe they do scream a little more, and I do feel like there is this rise of screamo coming back again right
totally.
now.
Yeah.
That new
Yeah.
Ben Quad album, the new there's The World Is a Beautiful Place. Like they went super hard than what they're used to doing. So this could be another trend in that direction. Let's move on to your second song, and we will do the band Heartworms. So that was the song Jacked by Heartworms. And my first reaction on that is you're definitely into like that post-punk, electro-punk sound. A lot of these tracks kind of live in that world a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, if you listen to her record, Glutton for Punishment, there's a lot of that there. And that definitely does appeal to me, no doubt. One of my all-time favorite bands is The Cure. And I kind of love, gothic, dark, emo, at the end of the day. And her music's got a lot of that. Maybe not this track is not necessarily representative of it, but there is a lot of post-punk elements of electronic music.
Totally.
But I think, I saw her open, it was a couple years ago now, here in Atlanta at a venue called The Variety. She opened up for The Kills. Similar kind of vibe, there's definitely, The Kills don't have a drummer. They have like a live kind of drum machine going.
Sure.
And very strong vocals, kind of similar to Alison Mosshart. Not quite the same range, but the vocals immediately hit me, kind of spooky, but powerful. And, and really distinct. I haven't really heard a whole lot in the 2020s, kind of vocals in this range, and again, like anything that's relatively spooky is immediately gonna hook me. And
it's like that dark pop. It's like
yes.
kind of the realm it lives in, and I won't go as far as like say it's like Charlie XCX, but even Charlie XCX has a little bit of that dark pop. It's just very chunky and heavy.
That's right
for pop music.
Yeah, and again, her record came out 2025, but I think an expanded edition just dropped with a couple more tracks. So, a little bit more versatility than maybe meets the eye or the ear.
Sure.
So yeah, really dig that.
Nice. All right, my next song. This is from a Chicago artist that I've really been into, and they haven't released a ton. But what I've heard of them, I really enjoy, and I'm just waiting for them to make that leap and make that next step. And it does sound like they will be putting out a new album in this year. I think they're going to record in the next couple months. So what I'm going to play, this is a song from Glass Beagle, and it is called Killed by Candle Canoeing. And this is a song that they released, I believe, last year. But this is a good sample of kind of what their sound is like. So no vocals in that clip, but they definitely live in the twangy world, which is obviously a very ripe area right now. And it's got a little bit of that kind of Wilco-y vibe a little bit, War on Drugs a little bit. Curious to know your thoughts.
Yeah, as soon as you said Wilco, I was like, oh yeah, I get that now. Yeah, the notes that I took as I was listening to this track was like, it was definitely folky, but I loved, especially that little excerpt that you played. Like then the fuzzed out guitars started to come in, which I jotted down Kurt Vile. I was like, oh, I'm getting Kurt Vile vibes,
especially on drugs. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Especially the vocals. The vocals reminded me of Kurt a bit too, but I think Wilco is a great shout, and I do feel like this is an opportunistic space, as you put it. There's not a lot happening here, and it immediately stood out as something that felt fresh.
Yeah, definitely. I'm obviously a super big proponent of the Chicago music scene. I think there's so many great bands, and I think this is a great one that still so many people just don't know about. And if they're not doing these nationwide tours or anything yet, but much like how I felt with Freako a few years ago, they put out one of my favorite albums of 2024. So I think Glass Beagle, if they keep on moving, I think there's some good stuff there for sure.
Nice.
All right. So your next track, we're going to play, is it pronounced Bedroom?
Yes, Bedroom.
Bedroom. All right, let's play it. This is Snares.
Takes time. The less you know, the more.
So, Bedroom. They are UK-based. I guess at this point you could call them an electronic band.
Yeah.
But I do think that they started out. This is their third record that just came out, and they started out more in, I would say, kind of the shoegaze space. So especially if you catch their first record, a lot more traditional shoegaze, like stuff that sounded like My Bloody Valentine. Actually, a friend of mine that really likes Dive turned me onto them. And he was like, "Hey, if you like Dive, you'll be in the Bedroom." And so I think that throughout the course of their brief run, they've only been a band really since like 2019.
Okay.
They have had a progression that was shoegaze to experimental. Their second record reminded me a lot more of like Radiohead. It was like they were starting to incorporate a lot more electronic elements, to where now their third record, Microtonic, they're leaning all the way in to the synths, which I as an electronic music fan, I obviously dig, but it's been cool to see that they're just not complacent with their sound. They're constantly pushing and moving the envelope, and fairly prolific. Like 3 records within 5 years is pretty rare in 2025.
Definitely, yeah. This one also lives in that dark pop realm a little bit. Yeah, definitely really interesting. And there's actually when I first saw his name, so it's spelled BDRMM, and we actually have an artist in our indie basketball Discord who's like an indie hip hop artist named Bedrooms. So
cool.
That was the first connection I made, but it's actually not that dissimilar, because like there is like this really cool kind of like dreamy, but dreamy poppy, but it still is a little heft to it, it's definitely really interesting. I think I don't often lean on that side of the electro spectrum that much, but I dug this one.
Nice.
All right, so keeping the UK trend going, my next pick is a band from the UK who is going to put out their first album next year, and this is actually a very recent discovery of mine too, but I can see where this is going, and I can see how this will break out. So this is a band called Ugly, and the song is Gallowine.
Yes, I know that place in ways that
So if I had to guess based on where the indie rock scene is going with Geese, with Black Country New Road, like this feels like it fits right in that lane, and I can see a certain type of fan really, really digging their teeth into this band and getting really quick success. I've talked a lot about Racing Mount Pleasant, which definitely is eclectic like this, but it's more on the folkier side. That eclecticism, I feel like, within this band is what could really get people like caught off guard and like really attract to them.
Yeah, I think the adjective I wrote down as I was listening to this track for the first time was ambitious. Like it is. I feel like it's a track that is going to be so rewarding upon future listens because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
And I feel like I hear a lot of different influences and a lot of different genres kind of melding together. Like immediately I was like, this is like a jazz track, right?
Yeah.
But it's also like very, very explosive at times, so there are elements of folk, but it also feels like, I don't know, it's kind of aggressive too.
Totally. Yeah. That piano track on top is another unexpected element. And then once it combines with like there's this like deep kind of like high pitched guitar that's kind of droning in the background. And I think those unexpected elements are what there's like definitely this younger, indie rock scene, the crowd who's like in their early 20s who like find these bands like Geese and Cameron Winter and Black Country New Road, and they're like, I don't hear music like this. I like this.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So that's Ugly. And then we're going to move into a band called These New South Wales. This is your next pick. And this song is called Instinct.
I could give a shit what you think about me. Some people just see what they want to see. You got to listen to your instinct.
So yeah, that's
Tell me about them.
Yeah. So These New South Wales, this is their 4th record that just came out in November. They're getting ready to go on tour. And they're based in Australia. And one of the things I like about them and this track in particular is they're wearing their heart on their sleeves. The lyrics are incredibly literal. Listen to your instinct more. And I think, for me, in this phase of life, like I love punk, and this is definitely a relatively straightforward punk band. At its core, there's other things happening, and there's other tracks that are much more mellow. But I think that this is a track that's just about being sincere and earnest and true to yourself. And I don't know, I really dig that message, as simplistic as it is. And it's something that I felt like I needed to hear in the moment when I heard it for the first time. It was like, personally, just like second guessing decisions or like, I don't know. It's kind of anthematic. Is that the right way to say that? Anthemic. Thank you.
Yeah.
In that sense, and I feel like it's just, I'm all for positive vibes, and it's very, very positive
For sure.
It
very much is. It lives hard in that post-punk like Idols and Fontaine's DC world.
Totally.
And I'll admit this is probably not typically my cup of tea. I think at least within this group, I think the literalness that you love, I think is what I'm like, I want more out of that.
Totally.
Like, but the simplicity of those heavy riffs, especially in the beginning of the track, I think are really like strong and like simplistic music at its finest. Like you don't need to do much to have a catchy hook to draw people in. And I think that's really, it's the sound is like really well produced and really high quality. And I think those guitars are really tight.
Yeah.
I think lyrically, I'm just like, I understand. I get it. I just want more. I want more.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, so next on my list is an artist named Sean Solomon, and this is Shooting Star.
You saw a shooting star. You wished you were where you are. You saw a shooting star. You wished you were where you are.
So that's Sean Solomon, and a little background on him is he kind of got a little bit of popularity, mostly on TikTok, because his previous song, Car Crash, he did this thing where he used to be in a very different like style, like more of a post-punk type band previously, about 10 years ago, and now he's doing solo stuff, and he got popular by doing the song Car Crash. His backing band was a VHS, and he hit play and had the drums, and he had a little cartoon that he designed, and it played throughout, and he played over it, and it was such a unique thing to see. And I love when people are creative like that and find ways to create their own music however they can. And that's what really drew him in, and that's what kind of blew him up a little bit. The song Shooting Star here was just released a couple weeks ago, and that was the first song released on Anti Records because they just signed him. So that leads, and it hasn't been announced, but that leads me to believe that Anti Records will be releasing a full length probably sometime in this upcoming year from Sean. And I really love the sound. I think it's I heavily gravitate towards those orchestral folky songs. Definitely has some like Beirut and Akaville River vibes, and those are Akaville River is like one of my all-time favorites. And yeah, I think it's really, really, really nice, and I like the shtick of the VHS band. I don't know if I'll keep doing that, but I thought it was really interesting. I know that's not like a gimme with the song.
That is so cool. I had no idea that VHS band background, because I think I would immediately it would grab my attention if I caught that live performance and I saw these little doodles coming to life.
Yeah, it's really cool. I don't think he did that for this song.
Okay,
but I like the song a lot too.
Yeah. I mean, I think with this song in particular, again, like folky stuff isn't typically my cup of tea, but I do. I mean,
Sure.
there is, but like I love Wilco, I love My Morning Jacket. There's a ton of
Yeah.
bands that I love that have folk elements. But what I actually think this was my favorite of the 5 of your selections. And it kind of caught me off guard because I was like, man, the brass in the song is really interesting, and then that clip you played, is kind of this crescendo.
Yeah.
And it just keeps building and building and building, and then there's this really interesting, complex payoff that just caught me off guard completely. And I'm also a big vocals guy. I like this. Sure. I like Sean's voice. It immediately stood out to me. So yeah, really, really cool track.
I think I could also see him living in the gap left behind by Pine Grove. Like I feel like it does also live in that realm a little bit too, where it's like this folkier side of emo a little bit. And I really appreciate that. I was really surprised he's only got 2 songs up, so I'm excited to hear more. All right, let's do your last track, and this is going to be from Ben Kenny. It's called 44s.
I've got to find a way.
All right.
I think this dude's really interesting. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts about him.
Yes. So I am a massive Ben Kenny fan, and this is my least probably like traditional indie basketball sort of hipster pick, I would say, of the bunch. So for those of you who don't know Ben Kenny, I think he's a great choice for this breakout list, given what he's gone through. Comes from a very mainstream background. He used to play guitar in the Roots, and then he went from the Roots to playing bass in Incubus. And yeah, so he had a very, very successful run as a part of 2 massive groups. But later in life, a few years ago, was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and then had surgery, had the tumor removed, and is now healthy. And this record that he put out this year, titled Powerful Butt Cheeks, is his first record that he's put out since taking a step away from music, taking a break in life. And he's really got this like great sense of optimism, new leash on life, and quit Incubus, apparently left on good terms with those guys, and his solo stuff is, if you like, kind of poppy alternative rock like Incubus, you might like some of this stuff, but his stuff is so much more interesting to me. And his new record is all over the place. So there's a track like this where there's like interesting synths, And it's kind of funky, and there's tracks that are like punk rock, and there's tracks that are kind of like R&B. It is, and that's kind of his solo career in a nutshell.
Yeah.
But the most interesting thing about him and about his music is that he does everything. He plays every instrument. He produces his own stuff. And there's really interesting YouTube videos you can watch of him playing all the instruments along to his songs. And the guy is just a powerhouse. And I think he came out of the other side of something horrific and made a beautiful piece of art. And he's just starting to tour again.
Yeah.
And I think if anyone gets an opportunity to see him, I strongly suggest it. And he's fucking awesome.
And that was going to be the thing I actually was going to mention was, Incubus and the Roots. And I'm like, oh, this does sound like it's like this sort of kind of indie hip hop. It's somewhere that lives in between indie and hip hop and R&B and all this stuff. I'm like, that's what this feels like to me. And the way you described it, he jumps all over the place, which is really cool. I do think, it is an interesting space that lives in. It does feel unique, and it does feel like not very often ventured into. I think there is a I know it's not heavily on the hip hop side, but there is this growing, I think, sentiment of like people want more indie inspired hip hop, and I think that it does, occasionally does happen. Plato the Third released a song that sampled Modest Mouse, and that the guy I mentioned, Bedrooms. I think there is a lot more, of this rising kind of trend of this sort of it's you're rapping, there's hip hop, but there's like it's an indie rock song underneath it, which is it's a really cool mixture, and I think he integrates a lot of that too.
Yeah, for sure. Another guy I really like, I'm sure most folks probably know Danny Brown, but Danny Brown has kind of been famous for always bringing in kind of indie artists or sampling indie songs. And he put a record out this year that's not necessarily my favorite Danny Brown album, but he does give shine to a lot of indie artists that are not that are kind of lesser known, which I think is really cool. And it's a lot of experimentation with different genres. And so that's a great shout. I love to see that indie is influencing
totally.
hip hop and R&B more so than today than probably ever before.
Yeah, one of those tracks, Danny Brown tracks, was with my guy Namdi, and I'm a huge Namdi fan.
Oh, nice.
All right, and that's actually a good transition to the last song, because Namdi is a good friend of this band. And this is probably no surprise to anyone, but my most anticipated album for 2026 is going to be Rat Boys. And this is the first song they released towards the album, which is called Light Night Mountains All That. I think it's Light Night Mountains All That, I think it's called. Yeah. All right, so here's the song. Have you listened to Rat Boys before?
Never.
Ooh.
So
do a deep dive.
Yeah, I'm excited. This track, love the tempo, dig the vocals, and it sounds like there's a lot happening here. I hear like flourishes of like, interesting guitar effects and what I think is keys, and I don't know. I just felt like a really, really interesting journey. For sure. And incredibly unique, and I'm excited to hear more.
That's what this song does. It does feel like a journey. I feel like anyone who has listened to the podcast or knows me, I'm a big fan of Rat Boys. They're good friends of mine, and The Window is such a great album, and that really shot them up to some acclaim. Would I call this upcoming album from theirs in February a breakout? I don't think so. I think they've already broke out a little bit, but it is anticipated for me. And I think one thing they do really well is the guitar work is always really surprisingly good. You don't expect that kind of guitar work in their songs at first glance, but like Dave Sagan is a tremendous guitarist, and he always brings something really unique to it. And this song in particular was really cool because it does feel like a journey, like you said. That guitar riff you heard at the second half of that clip, it feels almost like proggy and mathy. It takes this wave that you don't expect from this sort of, folky indie rock song like artists that they are. And I think it's just like, you don't expect a guitar pattern like that in a song like this, and that's what really, sold me on it. I think they're always bringing something different, and Julia's voice is always so unique. And I'm a huge fan. I can't wait for their album in February.
Yeah, you've sold me. I'm checking out the Rat Boys.
You should definitely listen to The Window. It was my favorite album of the year in 23.
Nice.
It's very good.
Yeah, you're really, I feel like, fortunate in Chicago. There's such an awesome music scene
Very
there.
blessed.
So many bands I like, indie bands have come out of Chicago, I feel like, in the last, 6-7 years. I love Meatwave.
Oh, yeah.
Gosh, I just forgot. There was another one I was just listening to the other day. But yeah, there's a ton of awesome bands in Chicago.
Totally. It's a great place to be for music for sure.
Yeah.
And on top of Philly's another great city for bands. Obviously, New York and LA have their spots, but Chicago's always got a spot in my heart.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Philly. I was actually going to ask, have you heard the new Tiger's Jaw single?
Not yet. That is. So let's talk about some honorable mentions for anticipated.
Yeah.
I know, I wanted to highlight some more lesser known stuff, but stuff to look forward to next year. Tiger's Jaw, Joyce Manor. Those are two albums for sure that I know people are going to get hyped about. Silver Sun Pickups is going to put out a new album.
Yeah.
That'll be exciting. Is there anything else kind of top of your mind that you're looking forward to next year?
Yeah, I was going to say, so I'm a big Balance and Composure fan.
Oh, yeah.
And the front man of that band has a side project called Creeks. And I know they're putting out a full length next year. So I'm really excited for that. I think he's got a great voice, and it's kind of, Balance-esque, but a bit more folky. And, honestly, there's a little bit of R&B and auto-tune kind of woven in, so it's really interesting stuff. So yeah, anyone that's not familiar with Creeks, that's another one that's got a record on the horizon.
I know Howdy's probably going to release another album. Trying to remember if there's any other rising to the top, but yeah, Tiger's Jaw. I saw them play at Best Friends Forever. They were incredible.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, I'm a huge fan. I know Ben is a subtle Hoops fan.
Oh, cool.
I also believe he is a Kings fan.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So, his knowledge may lay in the realm of Vlade Divac and that area. So,
very cool.
Some great albums to look forward to. Some great, lesser known albums to keep an eye out for. Some albums that came out this year that you should check out if you haven't already. But I think that's going to do it for this episode. It's been great, talking breakouts, both music and NBA.
Absolutely. Yeah. Happy to do it.
For sure. Thanks for joining me. And is there anywhere people can check you out if they want to kind of get to know you more?
Yeah. Let's see. So Kings Herald is where most of all my Kings writing lives.
Sure.
I think I've got a new article going up today on this. It's kind of a rebirth of the Kings. The last 3 games, we're benching vets and playing the young guys. It's been really interesting. Not winning a whole lot, but at least there's a lot more passion and heart on the court.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I'm pretty much at Contrarian Corner all across all the places. So Blue Sky, Instagram, those are the 2 main places.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining, man. And for everyone listening, thank you so much. If you want to help support indie basketball, we're at patreon.com/indie basketball. That's all that money goes to making more half-court sessions, making merch, and I truly appreciate everyone's support on there. Otherwise, make sure you follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube, TikTok, Blue Sky, all those apps. Join our Discord, join the conversation. It's a fun group of people over there. But that's going to do it for this episode. So thanks everyone for listening. We'll catch you next time.